So a couple months back, I had a chance to sit down with an old friend of mine, Matt Lloyd from Mountain Strong, gym in the north side of Denver, Colorado. Um, we had a great conversation about fear and choice and free solo climbing and fighting and just growing and being a surly bastard and that sort of thing. And it was a really great conversation. When I got back, unfortunately, I realized that one of the audio tracks from the first half of the conversation had been corrupted. So I didn't have audio from my field recorder for that, which means all I had left was the scratch audio from the camera. It's not perfect, picks up all the gym noise, and it's just, the sound when you record in a house. So I've been sitting on this footage for a couple of months now, just because the audio, it was killing me that I didn't have professional audio. But I'm going through the footage now, and I'm listening to it again, and there's so much fun stuff in there. There's so many interesting ideas about choice and about fear and about emotions that I want to share it anyway, and see if there's not something in there that you guys would really enjoy. Maybe you'll find it interesting. Maybe you'll learn something. There's some insights in there. So have a listen. Matt Lloyd.
We're just outside of downtown Denver at my gym, Mountain Strong, and my name is Matt Lloyd. This is the only way I hang out with all my friends, basically. I like doing shenanigans. You got it. I am originally from South Africa, but I've made Colorado my home since I was in high school. And I've been sort of a career climber, gym owner, and a menagerie of other kind of nonsense. I've pumped out a couple guidebooks over the years for climbing, and working on a kind of longer format writing stuff now. But mainly just trying to climb, coach people at the gym, and have as much fun as possible.
So when I met you were this kind of scrappy,
Just
real surly little shithead.
Yeah.
Actually.
yeah, that's absolutely true.
And you were doing some crazy shit.
Yeah, I still climb as much as I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
I try to climb 5 days a week, most of those times outside still.
And that you don't get hurt. You're not
No, I think that I'm pretty lucky on the not getting injured front. The transition from there to here is I'm probably mostly the same person, just humbled by life a little bit more, lots more. Life's hard, man.
Yeah.
The hustle is real, and life is challenging, and so you just got to pick something to do. And I've always been good at that. It's like picking something and then just grinding forward. So I'm just doing the same thing, just same but different.
Yeah. As I've known you for years, you made this transition where all of a sudden you started going outside doing really crazy shit. It seemed like you turned a corner almost.
Yeah, maybe 15 years ago or something. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah, what happened was I was just kind of like, let's just say an everybody climber. I was doing what everyone was doing, and I wasn't bad, but I wasn't good, and I think that anyone out there that is in a niche, whether that's photography or writing or climbing or running, there's this moment where you realize that you can't be good at everything, and you start looking for, like, I'll call it your superpower. Like, some people's superpower is endurance, or maybe it's speed or strategic thought, okay? But what happened to me is that I figured out that physically I wasn't that gifted. I'm not one of those people that's like, I'm just hard work or whatever. Like, I could climb, I just really couldn't stand out amongst other people. But what I figured out that I could do was take risks and kind of keep cooler than most people. And so I just kind of dived head over heels into soloing, because it was the first thing I ever did that felt easy for me that no one else would do. And so it's sort of like, at first it was the vanity of like being able to do something that other people couldn't do, just because, when you're younger you want to stand out. And then as you get older, I think it became less trying to stand out and more being the only thing that could give me that feeling. Because it's sort of like once you raise the intensity bar, and you climb without a rope or big mountains or just dangerous routes in general, when you climb something that's really safe or do any sport that's really safe and doesn't require that commitment, it feels like the volume just got turned down, and it feels a little like playing a game. And like, I'm not a big game player. It's just like, I hate people who are like, I'm an extreme sport guy, or like, I love adrenaline, because I don't actually like adrenaline. I like putting on the line something. I like making a statement. For instance, any athlete can say, I can do this, right? And then whatever that is, you go out, you do it. And if you don't do it, you don't do it. And if you do it, you do it. And maybe someone calls you out on it, but there's no judgment in that. What I love about free solo rock climbing or dangerous rock climbing is that you say you can do something like climb this 100-foot overhanging rock face, and then you actually make the ultimate statement of being able to do it. You do it with the consequence of falling and dying. And there are very few things in this world where you make a statement that is that ultimate, and that feeling becomes really special to be like, to just lay it all out there, you know, to, what do they say in poker when you're all in?
Yeah.
To be all in. But I don't like being scared, and I don't like adrenaline, because when my adrenaline gets jacked and I'm scared, something has gone wrong. I'm no longer climbing in the zone. A mistake has been made, and that's a bad thing, right? So like, I don't like to be scared. You know, that's like a misconception. Anyway, I didn't mean to get off topic.
No,
Rather,
that's great.
that was the progression from going from kind of typical climbing to like what I'll call the fringe.
Yeah.
You know, I have a summer home on the fringe.
So when you're in it, when you're actually out doing one of these, what's that experience like? Can you describe it for somebody?
It's
who's
really,
never been there?
you know, it's really calm, and it feels like I've done it before. And that's most of the time because I have. When I free solo a dangerous climb or a hard climb, I tend to rehearse it on a rope first, or at least mentally rehearse it, to the point where it feels like any mistake or error occurs has already been thought out, and there's like a strategy for it. So I feel really calm. Time happens very quickly, which I think is the opposite of what people think. It's sort of like the whole climb, it feels like it happens in 10 seconds, when maybe I'm up there for 5 minutes. And it feels flawless. And that's the feeling that I love. I've tried to find that in other things, but it's just like that ability to like fine tune something. And you surf, right? Or have surfed? Okay. I've surfed enough to know that I don't like drowning. I'm pretty bad at it. But here's a concept that
Good at it.
really, yeah, exactly. Here's a concept that really helps relay at this point. When you surf a wave, it doesn't mean it's not the penultimate. That is not like the alpha of surfing just because you've surfed the wave. It's not can you surf the wave, it's like how do you surf the wave. Now in climbing, it's very much the opposite of that. In climbing, no one cares how you did it, but did you do it? Did you accomplish this thing? And to me, that statement is really that of what is the bare minimum. So when you climb a route without falling, the bare minimum is you climb that route without falling. But when you solo something, you're trying to perfect it, and that perfection process of like mitigating all the dangers and thinking about if this hold broke or how fluidly you could move through this or gaining efficiency or efficacy or whatever as you go through it, it's like climbing it isn't enough. It's like climbing it flawlessly, and then you like keep building and keep building. So it's no longer surfing the wave. It's like now you're adding style points and finesse and really adding that level to it. And so that's how I got there.
So what's the scariest solo you get done?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like, by and large, it goes pretty well because I do in the work. Like, I don't want to die, and I'm not a thrill seeker, and I'm not an adrenaline junkie. So, like, I always describe it like this. When you have a wizard, right? Like, there's the wizard, right, behind the curtain, right? All right? It's like, the grand trick is I let you think it's really dangerous, but the truth is I've done the work.
Right.
So by and large, soloing isn't scary for me because I've done the work, and I'm just letting you see this thing that looks really scary. But occasionally it doesn't go that way. And one time in particular in Eldo on this route called Nothing But Dynamics. It's like a 512A kind of dynamic super roof. Pretty short climb, but very steep and pretty in your face. And I think I just like pushed it, and it was the only time I can actually think of soloing where I like pulled up on a hold, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna grab the next hold, you know, like and just kind of like go for it. I think I look back on that and I was proud that I just went for it, as opposed to what most people do, which is lock up and make a dumb face and like think of alternatives that don't exist. That's my favorite thing people do when they're scared, is they use the active thinking as a stalling tactic, and they're like, no, I'm just gonna consider other alternatives that definitely don't exist. You know, like you know what to do and you just need to do it, you know? So anyway, so it turned out to be good in the way that I didn't fall. It was bad in the way that I overestimated my ability in that moment, and I think if you're gonna die, doing anything in this world, it's going to be an overestimation of your ability.
So if you do get to that place where you're scared, because I think about one of the things that I do and don't like about climbing is that I'm terrified of climbing. Every time I go climbing, I get scared shitless. And there's almost always a point where I'm just like, well, the only way out of this is through. Like there's work that has to be done, somebody's got to do it next time. And that for me is that's the thing that pushes me through. Do you even think about it when you get that scared? Or you even
Well, okay, here, I'm going to backpedal for 2 seconds because this is an interesting concept that is fascinating for people. I've spent way too much time thinking about this. But, okay, I said earlier that I don't like to be scared. And let's just define fear and define being scared. That's an emotion, right? Do you know what makes something an emotion as opposed to a feeling?
No.
Could you guess? Feeling, emotion, emotion, feeling. I'm feeling sad.
You're right. If you're
Okay.
the emotion, I would say, is when you take that feeling and you internalize it as a response to a feeling.
That's very, very close. It is common regarded that an emotion is accompanied with a physiological response. Okay? So, when you are angry, like you're in this state of rage, your parasympathetic nervous system has reacted, you're sweating, you've stopped digesting, you're having an adrenal response, right? Like there is a change in your body. If you've ever been really mad at someone, you know that there's a few seconds there where no matter what they said to you, you're mad. And that is an actual real thing. Science is sort of up and down on how long that state lasts for. Anyway, where I'm going with this is when you're actually scared and in a state of fear, a physiological response has occurred that is now going to impact your ability to move. Okay, and everyone knows that. Like we'll call it the shaking leg. We can dive into all these things. The heart rate, perspiration. Sometimes you have to feel like you have to pee. You get tunnel vision, time changes, right? These are all physiological responses. You're not making them up, they're actually happening. The problem is we are built, our sympathetic nervous system and our ability to react to fear is designed to fight bears, okay, or tigers or whatever it is. No, literally it's built around fight or flight.
Right.
But what happened is we started doing things to simulate that act of war or that act of violence that we are so built to handle. And now we use extreme sports to simulate those, right? Okay, now follow me because this is awesome. So we were swinging maces on a battlefield, right? But now we needed to fill that gap. So along comes extreme sports or sports in general, right? So all of a sudden you're base jumping. But now that response, that fear response becomes, while it is ingrained in us and it could be helpful at times, we lose the ability to run. So for instance, you're in a fight in an MMA ring, right? Or I'm climbing. Shit hits the fan, I have the emotional response, and it's giving me this fight or flight. We were familiar with that. But you can't fight anything, and there ain't no running. So what do? What's the third one that no one talks about?
Shit your pants.
Close. What do most people do? If I take a swing at you and you haven't fought, what do?
Freeze up.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Freeze, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is you've had this huge hormonal dump, right, of adrenaline, and you freeze. So what really happens when you freeze? You get that shaking, crazy, amped up feeling, right? That you're, no, seriously, it's super intense.
Totally.
And if you don't know
you
what I'm talking
emulate it
about,
very well.
yeah, just shake. If you don't know what I'm talking about out there in internet land, consider this, okay? Think back to the last time you thought you were going to get into a fight, a real fight. Like you just thought it was going to happen. And then most of you were sane, good-hearted people, so you diffused it and walked away. But remember that feeling afterward, of feeling shaky, like you're almost going to cry and your fingers are tingling, and that incredible dump of feeling? That is the freeze response, okay? The problem with the freeze response is it can actually hinder the fight or flight response. But we overdevelop the freeze response because most of the time in our life when someone cuts you off in the car, again, there's no one to fight and there's nowhere to run. So we really develop the freeze response. It happens over and over and over and over and over. It happens so often that it's the only thing we know how to do. And if you think back on yourself when you're scared, that's what's happening. So, going back to you being scared and climbing. Being scared is a bad thing. Your parents were lying to you and they said fear is a good thing. Fear is not a good thing. Understanding that something is dangerous is a good thing. Okay? Understanding that something can hurt you, understanding what your ability is and what the task in front of you is. That is important. The state of fear is a bad thing. It's going to hinder your ability to get out of something. Now let's go back to fighting. I've had one amateur Muay Thai fight, I trained my ass off for it. My dad was a boxer growing up. It's something that I care about. And I stepped into the ring. The referee was like, you ready? You ready? Ding! And I don't remember what happened. I won the fight, but I do not remember what happened because I went into that state of fear and it was just like I turned off. Now, let's look at someone really good, John Jones. My personal favorite fighter, maybe the greatest pound-for-pound fighter to ever walk this earth. Like him or not, it's a different conversation, but the man is good, okay? So watch him fight. Cool, composed, evading, eyes open, doesn't put his hands up. When he gets into the clinch, he doesn't throw bombs. He spins out and does a spinning back fist. He is eyes open and slow. Look at him. He looks calm, even in the war, like when the chaos hits. So he's like programmed himself through that. The point is, when you do something that frightens you, the way to handle it is you need to use two things: repetition, practice, right? You kind of lump those into one thing, and then you need to increase your knowledge of what will happen or of what you're able to do. So we'll use climbing as an example. You look up at a climb and you go, okay, I'm scared on this thing. What you could do to mitigate that fear, to not go into the state, the emotional response of fear, is you need to know that either A, you can do it, B, you can't do it, or C, you know how or what to do so that you will be able to do it. But if something doesn't fall into one of those three characteristics, then you're going to go into the state of fear. So essentially, as soon as you had an emotional response to something, you've made a mistake. And you should go backward from that point and rebuild. So for instance, in climbing, it probably means for most people that they need to like run more mileage on a certain grade. Like you go to Eldo and you climb a 5.9 and it scares the crap out of you. It's probably because you've been climbing in the gym and you haven't been on Eldo 5.9. But if you climb 100 pitches of Eldo 5.9, it's no longer going to be scary. So kind of repetition is the father of learning, and that mileage comes in. When I wrote a long feature article about fear, I interviewed Navy SEALs and sports psychiatrists, and the thing that came up over and over and over was none of them like being scared, and the minute they feel scared, they realize they have not done the proper training in advance. It means that some scenario has happened that you don't know about, and then you're in the unknown zone, you know? And so it's all about moving as many things into the known criteria as you can to mitigate that feeling. And I think the simple act of understanding that emotional response of fear, backing up 1 second. I know I'm all over the place, but here. So Alex Honnold, right? Everyone knows Alex Honnold these days. I interviewed Alex, went climbing with him, and one of the things, he said the exact same thing as everyone else, which is he doesn't get scared. And if he's gotten scared, something bad has happened, right? You can't be brave doing what Alex Honnold or Justin Gaethje or he's another fighter, what they do, because they're not. Bravery is just walking into something and not knowing the outcome of it. That's not what we're looking for. That's not like the word to describe an elite athlete. An elite athlete needs to do the work, and then you walk into this thing prepared, right? But bravery requires this sort of unknown walking forward thing. And a lot of people ask, what do you do when you're scared? And I asked all those people that, and all of them gave me the same response. They're like, fuck if I know. You get scared, it's screwed, I don't know, it just sits around. And that's because physiological response is taking place, and you can't stop it. Now, science says that can last up to 3 minutes, kind of give or take, and don't quote me on that, but it's not a particularly long time. So for a certain period of time, let's say it is 3 minutes, you have no response. There's nothing you can do. There's literally your endocrine response has jumped in there, it's taken over. Your amygdala, your reptile brain, it's taken over, okay? You're on the battlefield swinging a mace. There's no amount of front brain activity that's going to help you mitigate this now. So there's nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is not get there in the first place, right? Ironically, you can tie this in with your spouse, because when someone's mad at you...
I hope you're listening, Doc.
Check this out. If someone's mad at you, science says that when they get really mad, they have the right, in a way, because of the physiological response, to be mad for about 3 minutes. After that 3 minutes, it's their choice to remain and pretend to act mad. They are no longer out of control. For about 3 minutes, you just have this response, and you're like, damn it, I told you not to do that. But after that, it's an act. And if you think back, and maybe I just challenge you guys out there, next time you have a real emotion, track how long it lasts. Look at the clock, And after that period, ask yourself if you're still mad or if you're just kind of reliving something and remembering how it felt. And I've done it, and it's surprising to you, like you think the feeling will last forever, but then a few minutes later, you're kind of like, well, I could get over it, but really I'm just trying to prove a point.
Now I'm just being a dick.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, no, Donnie, you're not wrong, you're just an asshole.
You know, it's funny when I think about the things that do make me scared, because I've been in a number of situations where I've been in imminent, immediate death, or danger of death. You know, when I was first learning how to whitewater kayak, the guy that took us up there put us in shit.
Kayaking is really dangerous.
No business being in, right?
Yeah.
And on numerous occasions, we were in, literally the very first trip I went to up in the Wolf and the Red River in Wisconsin. Not huge water by any means, but they had multiple sections of class 5 route. And I literally just spent 20 minutes in the lake learning how to pull the skirt. And then the guy's like, all right, you're good, let's go. You know what I mean? And there were multiple times, one that I remember specifically, multiple times where you're just upside down and you're cycling in something and you can't get out because there's nothing going on. And there's literally nothing you can do to get out. The water will get rid of you when it's done with it. You know what I mean? And in those moments, for whatever reason, I have this calm clarity in those kinds of situations, right? That stuff doesn't scare me. I've been in multiple car pileups on Eisenhower going up to the mountain. You know, coming out of the tunnel and it's all frozen down there. And I swear to God, it was like days of thunder, man. People were fucking going up over the side railing in one car, over the front of my car. I'm just like,
Just cool and calm.
this is bananas, man.
Yeah.
You guys see what's happening here? There's people everywhere, you know? And it was not scary. Like, that was not scary. But like I said, climbing. Like, every time I go climbing, there comes a point, usually. Now, there's a thing, I don't know if it's,
Well, I'm just jumping in there. Both of the things that you cited are reactive. So skiing downhill, kayaking is a great example. Car accident is also a great example. A certain set of events have taken place, and now you no longer have control. They're actually easier to handle the fear in those things because you have no say. You can't back out. What makes climbing scary is at any moment you could choose to come back down.
Right.
So when you drop off a cornice or you base jump, you make one act that's scary, which is, do I jump or do you drop in? Okay? But after that moment, you're in it, man. It doesn't matter, dude.
you bought the ticket.
You're in it, okay? So you don't have a say anymore, and in a way, those are easier.
Sure.
What's really challenging is when you have to keep making that decision over and over, and you have an out. In climbing, we use the word commitment.
Right.
When you are totally committed, everything shifts because you no longer have that out. And it's like, sometimes like younger people, like I've now been married for a while, and sometimes people are like, why get married, you know? And I always tell people, I think the advantage to being married is that you've committed to somebody, and it's like you bought the ticket. You own the car, you gotta take care of that, your car. That's the car you're driving for the rest of your life. It gets a tear in the seat, you gotta fix the seat, otherwise the stuffing's gonna come out and you're hosed, okay? But if you have a lease and you can just turn it in whenever you want, every time something happens to it, you get a tear in the seat, you're like, just get a new one, okay? And it's like the simple act of like being able to change your mind. And what's interesting is this has been backed up hard in science. People who have choices over things like them less.
Right.
This is hard, repeatable, observable science, okay? One of the biggest studies that comes to mind is they let people choose between two pieces of artwork.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
I was just going to bring that up.
You know, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that. I think that it was on a Radio Lab or This American Life.
Yeah.
And people who could swap it back in liked their artwork less. And think of a fancy restaurant. There's less items on the menu. When you go into a Chili's and there's 97 items on the menu, first off, I'm like, how can you cook all these things? There's no way that lamb is fresh. Who orders lamb at Chili's? You know? But they have a few things on the menu. I think that's partly because they're like A or B. And I think choice is really difficult for humans. And just going back to that, some people respond well to less choice.
Sure. And you think it's the constant out.
Yeah.
So, but now let's take that to solo, because you don't have that constant out. You make one choice.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
make a choice at the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't get scared in soloing, and most climbers I know that solo don't either. Occasionally, you get into ground where you wish you could get the out, and then it does get scary. Or rather, there are outs that you could try to make a climb, you know? So it's sort of like, therein lies some gray area in your active choice. But anytime your path is laid out for you, and I think that's the big ticket. It's like when you need to remove choice, and you can remove choice by memorizing the path you will take, or just simply not giving yourself any choice.
That's
There's
deep.
so much talking.
Okay, so you've gone from this like scrappy, like climber kid. You kind of you think about things a lot, obviously. Right? Now you've gone from there to now you're writing articles. You're now a personal trainer. Like, what was the transition for you? When because you used to be like, I'm gonna go out and do crazy shit, blah blah blah, and now you're training to do that kind of stuff.
I think that all of us, as we get older, like, you want more layers to your life. I think that when you're younger, it's really easy to be one-dimensional. Like, I want to snowboard, and that's it, bro. I'm just going to snowboard every day. I'm going to hit those kickers and slash the pow, and that's that. But, like, the thing is Groundhog Day is real, and you will wake up, and then it's just, like, the same thing over and over again. And, like, I had this one particular moment. I met a climber in Rifle. And he was driving this like sweet van. And this is, okay, let me back up, all right? All these fucking hipsters ruined it, okay? I know everybody lives in a van now, and it's like hashtag van life, okay? But like, I grew up in the generation where it was like, literally, climbers, I think, are partly responsible for starting the entire movement, okay?
Yeah.
The whole shebang, no adventure life, no, all those dumb hashtags. Anyway, everyone, anyway, yeah, so, this guy lived in a van. It was the first person I'd seen live in a van, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And he was like 45, and he was showing me this van, right? And I was like, this is awesome. You know, I was like, you just climb every day, and there I am. I'm like 19, and I'm like jealous of this guy. Anyway, I climb with him for the season. Anyway, the season ends, and it's cold, and all the leaves are falling off, and it's an overcast day. It's cold outside. It's kind of foggy out. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. And he's like, okay. And he kind of like saunters over to his van and just gets in his lonely ass cold van by himself, okay? No family, no friends, just sitting there in his dumbass van on his own. And I literally went, wait a minute, how old are you? You're 45 years old? Fuck that. It was, dude, in 1 second I saw that and I was like, there's more to life than climbing. There's more to life than living in a van, you know? And then it's like camaraderie, you know, like, and having people around you. And I think like, for me, like, I'm not some, like, hyper-religious, conservative person by any means. I'm, like, totally on the other end of it. But at the same thing, I found a lot of value in, like, having a family and, like, building more than these things that are really temporary. Like, how hard you climb and taking a risk. It's like, dude, it took me a long time to understand no one gives a shit how hard I climb. Like, nobody. My wife does not care how hard I climb. I mean, she'll give me face service, you know? She'll be like, oh yeah, babe, nice work. Whoa, 514, awesome. But I mean, like, I could be telling her about fixing my car. She cares that I'm happy. She does not care that it happened. And so it just occurred to me one day that I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, and then there was like 5 years of being like, well, if that doesn't matter, like, what does that mean for my life, right? And then you're like, so when you're 18, you're like, climbing is all that matters, bro. I have to send, okay? And then 25 rolls around and you're like, maybe climbing doesn't matter, okay? And then 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, you're like, if that doesn't matter, then nothing matters. Maybe life is empty and meaningless. And then 30 rolls around and you go, oh shit, like, relationships matter and how you are with your family matters and, like, you know, being a good person matter, and those other things don't matter. And, like, the thing builds, but you just have to have the experience of adding each step. And so I think that's how that progression happened for me. And it wasn't like there's no wisdom, there's no I knew something that other people didn't know. It's just life is this relentless force that just pushed me into each step, you know? Like, you're a shithead, and then my dad died. And then you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? People die. Okay, cool. Like, remember that. And then it's like, this bad thing happens, or this thing happens. And then you watch other people go through hard stuff. Like, and then, like, my wife's brother died of cancer a couple of months ago. And, like, watching her go through that whole thing, it was like, I mean, it's not my brother, so it's not something that was, like, wrecked me. And obviously I want life to be awesome and happy, but you can't. And then you're like, oh, like, investing in someone else. It's like this bedrock. And if your brother gets cancer, climbing's not going to do shit for you, you know? Or like how much you bicep curl is not going to do shit for you. Or Instagram is not going to do shit for you, you know? And it's like remembering those things. Now, I still get on Instagram, and I still love climbing. It's just like a matter of weighing things differently. Like, it doesn't affect not doing it. I still do it because I want to do it, you know? But knowing that it's not going to give me something back is simultaneously liberating and knowledge enhancing. You know, it's like liberating in the fact that, like, if I send, self high five. If I don't send, oh well, no one cares anyway.
Okay, so you bring two questions to me right now. So again, I'm going to go back to the whole try hard thing. But just to bring into that.
Sorry, I forgot this is about sports.
No, it is. No, it's about life.
Feelings are gross.
Feelings are. I touch them all the time. So, are you the kind of person, would you say, the way you talk about it right now, it kind of sounds like you're just like learning from life and going along.
Yeah.
I've always been really kind of impressed and confused by people who seem to have a singularity of purpose. People who just knew from the time they were 6 years old where they were going in life.
Yeah.
That is just not me.
Yeah.
Maybe that's you.
It is kind of me.
Is it you? Have you done that?
Look, what I knew at an early age that I feel really thankful for, and now that I have a daughter, I want her to have, is it doesn't matter what you choose. You could be an artist, or you could be a janitor, you can be a climber or a cook. It doesn't matter. What matters is like how you do the thing you do. Because some of us don't get a choice. If you could choose to have a good life, right? We'd all either choose to have a good life, or the people that couldn't choose that thing, they're screwed. Fuck them. Life's over. But it doesn't work like that. Rich people kill themselves all the time, right? And poor people are quite happy. So it's got nothing to do with the choice of doing things, because otherwise poor people would kill themselves more, right? Like, it's logical. They can't choose more things. A rich person can choose more things. But women doctors and women dentists kill themselves at a higher rate than anyone else, even though one could argue that they've succeeded the most, right? So I believe that, again, coming back to the choice thing, choice is the problem. And people just have this idea that it could be better. I could have a better spouse, I could live in a better place, I could have a better job, or I could do something better. But that is simply not true. And if you look back at a logical thing, it's just not. You can look back at anything, okay? Anything you want. And there had been a time where I was like, if I climb 513, I'll be happy. That shit didn't happen, you know? Or like, if I'm with this chick, oh my God, she's the best. It'll never happen. Then you have a fight, whatever. It's not like that. What I figured out at a really early age is you just fucking pick something, dude. So I picked being a climber, being an athlete, and the fact is I kind of sucked at it, and I just picked it anyway and kept fucking doing it over and over and over again. And then everyone's like, whoa, how'd you know your life's purpose? I'm like, I didn't know my life's purpose. I just picked something. And then people are jealous of it, because how do you get good at something? You keep doing it. But what happens to another group of people is they keep picking different things. They're like, I'm going to reinvent myself. Oh my God, I was doing this, but now I'm going to do something else because it'll be so much better. It's fucking stupid, dude. Starting again means starting again. Don't start again. Make course corrections. I'm not saying if you hate your life, you should just keep grinding it out. But make a small course correction and stay in one thing. And that, like, there's not many things. I mean, fuck it. I'm opinionated. I can just admit that. That being said, there are some things that I'll go back on. And one thing I've never seen an exception to is this idea that, like, change makes it better. Because I lived in a $120,000 house, and now I live in $1 million house, and you know what? I still want another house. You know, I live in a gangster house, dude. I got a doctor wife that's a babe. I got a good-looking kid. I own a business. I think I could buy just about anything I want. I go climbing 6 days a week, 5 days outside. And you know what? I'm as sad as the fucking rest of you, in a way. You know what I'm saying? And I want to do something else just like everybody else. But I think that waking up each day and just being like, this is it for me, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not going to try to, like, I'm going to go back to school for a marketing degree, or like, actually I've decided I want to be a plumber. You know, like, I think going down those roads of thinking alternative worlds where things would be better are just harmful and dangerous in general. And things will work out if you keep cranking in the right direction. Ha. Motivational Talks by Matt.
You can read his articles at... Where can we read any of the stuff you've written?
You can type my name into interwebs. Matt Lloyd Climbing normally pops up a lot of things. I wrote most of my articles are on Climbing Magazine's website. There's probably 5 or 6 over there. And then I've written a handful at mountainstrongdenver.com and mountainstrongtraining.com. Yeah, go there. Plug. All 4 of you that are listening to this.
Hey, we have 12 listeners. Now, people are tuning in live. Actually, that's not true.
Hey, Mom.
So, you're writing a book, though.
Yeah, I am writing a book.
And tell me again about it.
Last thing, it's just about training for the mountains, called Mountain Strength. It will be available. I'd love to say by summer. My guess is it's probably by Christmas, in about a year.
Far anyway.
I'm very far in, but everything that I've ever done that's difficult or awesome takes so much time. It's like you think, someone recently just told me this, they think we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 5 years, and that has really stood true. If you want to do something amazing, just commit 5 years of your life to it, because it's not going to happen in 1 year, and if you think it'll happen in 1 year, it'll happen in 5 years, and that so far has been true. You know, you can't start a meaningful business in a year. It can't be done. No one, me. I said that. I'm just saying that, like, you can't do it. It's like,
Somebody said that.
oh, no. Oh, someone did say that to me, but I'm going to just take it off as my own. You know?
Because
Yeah.
he's not here. And if he
Yeah.
were here, he probably could.
Because it goes back to commitment, right? You just got to commit, you know? If you, like, want to start a good business, just sign a personal guarantee on a banknote and take a lease for 5 years. If you have $1 million lease on your hands, you know what? You're going to stay open for 5 years, okay? But if you start a fake internet business that doesn't have an address and you don't pay anyone and no one's family depends on you, then why not close up shop any month that you have a hard time? But you hire one person and then let them build their family on the money you give them, you're in business, bro. Ain't changing. You know, in the middle of the night, you're like, I got to pay these motherfuckers, dude.
I love it. There's no commitment like that.
Yeah.
Soloing isn't even that kind of a commitment.
Well, I mean, it is in a way, but yeah. But luckily, my wife's a doctor, so if I fall, my kid's taken care of. I've thought about that. And she's hot, too, so she'll just get another husband. And I'll be the sad story she tells at a bar to pick up somebody. Be like, yeah, my last husband, he died. Oh, my God. And then, like, and then he'll be like, oh, my God.
I'm here for you, baby. I'll take
I'm here. Yeah, I have a shoulder for you to cry on. Anyway, on that note.
Yeah, hopefully not anytime soon.
Hey, yeah, we're all going to eat it eventually, though, right? So, yeah.
So what do you think about the sort of rise in popularity of the free solo thing?
I didn't watch the movie deliberately.
Okay.
Because it was this thing I did passionately for myself, and I didn't want to, like, impact that with popular culture. Like, I did it before I ever saw it in magazines and stuff, and it's just something that I do. And then on that same note, what I like about it is even if it's something people talk about or read about in magazines, it's like a sort of put your money where your mouth is thing. Like, I don't see anyone doing it. I really don't run into more people doing it because it's like the talk ends pretty fast. You know, it's kind of like you see a lot of people in the fight gym, but you don't see a lot of people take fights. And so it's kind of self-balancing. But no, I haven't liked the popularity of climbing and the growth of it. In general, I try to be positive about it. I'm glad people are getting into the outdoors. But with the growth of climbing, I feel like it's sort of lost its soul just because it's happening fast. And now everyone's dressed up like, we're talking like approach shoes, North Face, the whole backpack. They're all wearing the uniform, okay? And then they're all like got their dog at the crag with the hammock set up, top roping away, you know, like, and I'm like, climbing was about risk and not praying to the safety guards, to quote, oh man, I lost it. Anyway, Royal Robbins, right? He said you can't pray to the safety gods. And it's like, you need to risk something for it to be climbing. If you go climbing and you're just top roping with your dog and friends, I'm glad you're having fun, you're doing awesome. If you're at the gym, you're having fun, you're doing awesome, but you are not a climber. And that can sound conceited and pretentious, and maybe it is, but it's also true. As are most things that are true. They're conceited and pretentious. You know, you don't like it because it's true, right? If it wasn't true, it wouldn't bother you and you wouldn't call it that name. But it's like, you know, you just have to, you know, we'll go into Ernest Hemingway, you know, it's like, if you're not going to play a game, it's got to be auto racing, bull riding, mountain climbing, right? Otherwise, what are we doing here?
Did he say that?
Mm-hmm.
When? Was that a quote or is that?
Yeah, no, it's a quote of his that there are only a few real sports, auto racing, bull riding, and mountain climbing, and all the rest are games. That's pretty close to the quote, you know. His favorite drink was also the daiquiri. For all of you that are manly men and say that men don't drink daiquiris, just consider that. And also, he also used literally, not literally, in his books. Another Ernest Hemingway thing. So next time you go, literally, I slept for like 10 hours. And someone goes, did you? Literally, you know, that's not how you use it. You're like, actually, that's how Ernest Hemingway used it. Jerk.
Okay, so favorite Hemingway. What is it?
Oh, Old Man in the Sea, dude. 100 pages of human struggle. Human struggle. And the best part about it is he dies at the end. Sorry, spoiler. Okay? But that's because that's what life is like. You work your dick off, and then you fucking die. You know what? And that's okay. So get over it. It's not a bad thing. You're right. Life is empty and meaningless, and that's empty and meaningless. So just relax, enjoy it, have fun, and just know that you're going to die without your fish at the end of it.
Dude, my favorite part of that, you go through the whole struggle. The struggle of pulling that
Yeah.
damn fish in. And he's this old guy, he's already desperate, and it's horrible, and you're like, everybody's just rooting for this guy to like, one last
Yeah.
great hunt, and he's done it. And then the sharks came. You're just,
But it's perfect because it's exactly what life is like. And I think if we can accept that, life gets easier, not harder. If you just accept that you'll do the last great hunt and then you're going to die at the end and lose your fish, because like the truth is we all die alone, even if you have a family, and just accept those things and they'll be easier. But I think watching someone die who doesn't want to or hasn't accepted, that's terrifying. But watching that happen when someone like has accepted that fate, it's really empowering. Just on a closing note, because I got to get out of here sooner rather than later, but my sister-in-law said something that really caught my attention that pertains to this. She said that her life's purpose was to die without being scared so that her kid could live in a world where death isn't scary. And that blew me away, because how you go out of this world really does set a precedence to the people around you and what to be scared of. If you're terrified of everything, if you get mad at little things, what you do is emulated by those around you, obviously, right? And your kids. But if you think about like the ultimate thing, like our maybe biggest deep-seated fear human beings can have is that of dying. And I see that in free soloing, because people are like, don't you know that you could die? I'm like, no, I thought I was going to get out of this game without dying. Yeah, I know I could die. Like, so will you. Relax. But I feel like we spend this whole life trying to avoid that concept, but instead if you embrace that concept completely, and your purpose was to go out being like, this is how it's going to be, I accept that this will happen to everyone, I can be not scared of it, and you could then share that with the world instead of this fear, like live the rest of your life terrified of this inevitability, right? Anyway, I heard that and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I think for sports enthusiasts that do risky sports, there is a place for that, right? You're saying you don't have to be scared of things. And I think that most of the shitty things that humans do in this world comes from a place of fear. I am friends with multiple professional fighters, close friends, and not one of them get into bar fights. Not because they're badasses, but because some dude talks shit to them, shoves them, and you go, oh, you silly, you get out of here. You tussle their hair and you send them away because you'll murk them, right? Because you're a pro fighter, right? They're not scared of things, so they don't get into fights, dude. When you're not scared of life, you don't get angry, you don't shoot people out of buildings, you don't beat your wife, those are all the behaviors of people who are scared of things. So like the way that we live our lives, there can be a part of that that's really powerful, which is to show people they don't have to be scared of things, and so I've chosen to do dangerous things to do that, but you can do it however you want,
So
Don't be scared.
don't be scared from that, Lloyd.
All right, man.
Hey, real quick, last time, you're on Instagram, Mountain Strong Denver?
Mountain Strong Denver and at mlloyd8. I made that up when I didn't know Instagram was going to be a thing, dude. Okay? Don't judge me.
It's cute. It's 8, that was when you started your account.
Yeah, when I was 8. Yeah.
And the book will be out next year.
Yes.
Some of us will be looking for it. All 12 of us will be looking for it.
Yeah, and you, Mom, you have to buy 2 copies. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
for taking some time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.